Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe, that is Jay, and today we are talking about strikers. United need a striker, Jay. It's that simple. United have signed Bryan Mbeumo, that's done. We can move on from that. I say we move on, we're still excited to see him play. But it's been widely reported by David Ornstein, by Laurie Whitwell, by others, Fabrizio Romano as well, that Manchester United are in the market for a striker this summer. I think Fabrizio Romano even used the word big transfer, which I don't know whether that means important, or whether that means expensive, or whether it just means exciting. I don't know.
Or just tall.
Or just tall.
Yeah.
So maybe that could lean us towards which one of these guys you might buy. We're going to look at some of the options that have been linked most heavily, give our opinions on whether we should sign them, and also not necessarily a rating, but whether we think that United actually might go for these players.
Okay.
Because some of these feel a little bit more far-fetched than others. We're going to be looking at Benjamin Sesko, we're going to be looking at Nicholas Jackson, and we're going to be looking at Ollie Watkins. But first of all, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Bryan Mbeumo is a Manchester United player. That saga, the transfer saga, has ended, and I'm glad it has.
Yep.
Glad we got our man. Also, I'm glad we didn't get Victor Gyökeres.
Yeah, he's gone to Arsenal.
Yeah, what a
anyway.
loser. I agree with everything Adam McCall said about him.
Yeah.
He's rubbish.
Yeah, he's going to get bullied in the Premier League. What is he, 5'8", trying to play bully ball with the big boys? Good luck, mate. Nice first touch. Yeah, right. Okay, not jealous at all. Right, let's start with Benjamin Sesko then, because weirdly, this guy seemed to be Arsenal's first choice.
Yeah.
And for seemingly a multitude of reasons that didn't work out. I don't know whether it's a mixture of wages, transfer fees seem to be a big part. I think, as you've seen with the Gyökeres fee, it's somewhere in that 60 to 70 million region. It sounded like, and the reports were, that Leipzig wanted more in that 80 to 90 million region for Sesko, which I don't feel like anyone thinks is good value, really.
No.
And certainly something I don't think United could afford. But this is a guy who, we'll go through some of his basic numbers, 22 years old, 6'4", right-footed, very strong, powerful runner, athletic, like I said, straight lines in particular. He's a real sort of bulldozing kind of player, but he has got, some people would say, sort of surprising technical ability. He's not a sort of an Ekitike where it's kind of sticking to his feet, but he is someone that isn't just an absolute tree that kind of falls in one direction and that's all he can do. I think he is someone that can do a little bit of everything, but obviously, bear in mind, he's a big, heavy guy. In terms of full transparency on what we know about him, myself in particular, I haven't seen many full RB Leipzig games. I've watched them a handful of times in Europe, but not much in terms of Bundesliga stuff. Since the United have been linked with him, since he's been linked with moves to Arsenal, I've tried to watch a lot of highlights of him, read scouting reports that people who have watched him have put together over the last few years and see his development. Obviously, I've looked at stats, I've looked at shots and goals and assists and build-up play that he's done. I wouldn't consider myself to be anywhere near an expert on him, but I've tried to do enough research to formulate an opinion of him. That's sort of where I'm up to, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm an RB Leipzig fan or expert by any means. What about you?
No, I'm the same. You know me. But listen, when you can't tell too much off clips. When you watch clips, you see some of the goals he scores, very exciting. One thing I do like about Benjamin Sesko is a name that's been bandied about for a little while now, and he does have a little bit of an aura to him in the sense that he's an exciting player. He's always been spoken about quite highly. Still relatively young, 22 years old. So if you're going to think of it from a business point of view, which we know Ineos will, he's one of the few players on this list, if not the only player on this list, who has a decent potential sell-on value, even if things don't work out for him. If he comes to Manchester United and he does okay, or he doesn't quite live up to expectations, you could probably still sell him in a year or two and get a decent amount of money for him. And also people tend to look at United and go, well, it almost doesn't count when a striker goes to United or a young player goes to United, because United's such a bin fire. We can't count that. There's rumours that we can still get 40 million for Rasmus Højlund. No, it's a loss, but you still get decent money for him for a Serie A club, because clubs are looking at it going, well, you can't always take any notice of what goes on at Manchester United. So there is that. And also with Sesko, he does score goals. He's not as prolific as someone like Gyökeres, obviously, but he's a goal scorer. There's always that element as well. You know me, I'm a bit of a romantic, that potentially he could end up. I mean, he could score 8 goals next season for Manchester United if we got him. It's a big if. But he could score 25. You just don't know. Is he set to sort of kick on and get better and become the player that he's threatening to be? Or is he going to plateau? You're not quite sure. And I do like that sort of having that element of optimism there. And I don't think it's fair when some people go, oh, we took a gamble on Højlund, we can't afford to take another gamble. I feel like Sesko is a different type of gamble, or less of a gamble than Højlund was. Højlund had a decent season at Atalanta and then got a £70-odd million move to Manchester United. Sesko's much more reliable than Rasmus Højlund was. I think he's much more established than Rasmus Højlund was when we bought him. I know he's a couple of years older, but I don't feel like there's the hype, or there was the hype around Højlund there is around Benjamin Sesko. So I like Sesko. I think he's a decent player from what I've seen. And if he signed for Manchester United, I'd be pretty buzzing if it was like Sesko and Mbeumo and Matheus Cunha. You bought those three to address your attacking problems and your lack of goals. The only worry I have is 60 to 70 million is a lot of money. That is a big chunky budget, but it's not even your budget. You'd have to sell Garnacho, Antony and probably Sancho and use nearly all of that money to bring in Benjamin Sesko, which would be a bit of a worry, to be honest with you, because it doesn't leave you much room for manoeuvre elsewhere.
The other thing with Sesko as well is, and we had a few people on the Paddock podcast saying, you can tell you don't watch a lot of him and stuff, and because we were describing him as one thing. From what I've seen of him, and I've watched, like I said, not tons and tons, but trying to sort of catch up, I do feel as though some of his kind of technical side of his game is maybe slightly overplayed. And not that I think, obviously, people who watch more of him may see bits and stuff, or will have seen stuff that I haven't seen, but when you look at those sort of last 50 shots type compilations where you are just seeing what he does with the ball time and time again, I think that at times he does rely a little bit on clean strike, power strike, back of the net. And obviously that's great. That's going to get you plenty of goals. But sometimes in tight areas or in difficult, when your body's in a weird position, you're sort of crunching over the ball, you've got a defender coming in, I feel like maybe he lacks a variety of finishes, and maybe he doesn't sometimes have that sort of cuteness and deft of touch that you would want from a real top striker. Like think of Haaland. He's got every finish in the book. Yes, he can absolutely smack it in, but he's just as comfortable with a chip or a tap in at the back post or a shoulder in, or he can do a little bit of everything whilst being 6'4" and all that sort of stuff that Sesko is as well. I just think maybe that rounded finishing game is something that he could come up with next and maybe sort of progress on that front. But we'll have to wait and see on him. One thing that does worry me, and I think about this maybe more than other fans would, not as in like me, but us as United fans, I think, have to think about this more than others, is how piss-takeable is this guy? How easy will it be to ridicule us and him for his performances? And one thing that does worry me is how often he touches the ball in the opposition box in particular.
But if you don't touch the ball,
you
can't be criticised.
You absolutely can, because when there's not for what you do on the ball, that's true, but when there's a montage or a compilation or a screenshot or a heat map that is he's taken the centre circle kickoff and nothing else for the half.
Okay, yeah.
Because he averages,
you make a fair point there.
He averages 3.5 touches per 90 minutes in the opposition box, which puts him in the bottom 12% of strikers in the top 5 leagues.
Right.
So that really is low. And I think 3 touches per game in the opposition box, or 3.5. Let's round it up to 4. Give him a bit of a boost. If you average, as decent strikers tend to, a goal every 5 shots, let's say. Let's assume all of those touches are shots, which they're not. You're looking at a goal every 1.5 games maximum.
Yeah.
And obviously that would be great, but all those touches aren't shots, and he's not necessarily scoring 1 every 5. And I just feel like he needs to up the amount he's on the ball in the opposition box for me, because all strikers score most of their goals in the 18-yard box, and if he's having 3.5 touches per game, you're going to struggle to ever hit 40 goals in all competitions, which is what every striker would like to do. That needs upping, I think.
It's a criticism of Højlund, isn't it? I don't want to keep going back to Højlund, but this player who's coming in has to be an upgrade on Rasmus Højlund, otherwise what's the point? Just stick with Rasmus Højlund.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest criticisms with Højlund is he doesn't have enough touches in the opposition box. He spends too much of his time sort of almost near the halfway line, and you want to see more action from him in and around the box, having more shots.
Yeah.
So I understand your reservations there. Obviously, that would be a concern, and that's, at 22, there's every reason to think his game can still develop. He's not the finished article, but he's not a kid either.
No.
He's not 16. He's not Cheeto, who's 17. This is a player who's been playing quite a lot of football. He's played quite a lot of football for a player of a young age, at a high level as well. So he's not too far off the sort of what you see is what you get. So yeah, I understand your reservations there. That is a concern. Part of me is looking at it as the whole picture and going, Sesko, Cunha and Mbeumo, that is a 3. Yeah. Does it work? I think it does from what I've seen. Between the 3 of them, do they get you the goals you need? I think they could. I think definitely there's potential there to get you practically almost a goal a game between the 3 of them in the Premier League. So there's lots of reasons to be quite excited if this transfer was to happen. I think of all the ones we're going to talk about though, well, we'll talk about 3. It is an unlikely one anyway.
Would you want him?
He wouldn't be my preferred choice, but I'd be happy if we got him.
Yeah.
I would be if Benjamin Sesko signed for United this window. I'd be happy.
Yeah.
And I think I'd be the reason I'd be happy, again, I know I keep repeating myself, going back to it, is because we've already bought 2 attackers and you're throwing him in. If he was our marquee signing, we hadn't got Cunha, we hadn't got Mbeumo, then I'd be a little bit worried. And really, we're putting all our eggs in this basket for him to get the goals to get United back up that table. But we have got Mbeumo and we have got Cunha.
Yeah.
So that's why I think he fits into this system. He can get you goals. He has got that little bit about him where you go, yeah, this is a player here. So yeah, I'd be happy. What about yourself?
I like him. I think if it's anything over sort of 65 million, I think walk away. I don't see any reason why he should cost more or substantially more than Bryan Mbeumo or than Matheus Cunha. I know he's a younger player, but he hasn't got Premier League experience. He does seem to have some concerning sort of data and characteristics. Not massively, and he's got loads of potential, but yeah, I think any more than that 60 to 70 kind of ballpark that we paid for those two is ridiculous. Let's move on to Nicholas Jackson, because he's another player that has kind of already been sort of marked with the brush of ridicule, hasn't he? Like, he's someone that whenever you mention him on the news, on podcasts, on social media, the links to him, which aren't, entirely sort of concrete, but they are people saying he is one of the options. It's not necessarily the first option, but he's someone that United have considered. Whenever you mention him, it is just flooded with people saying, stay away, he's a joke, he's shocking, he's terrible. What do you make of him?
Yeah, I made the mistake of saying he's an improvement on what we've got. Yeah. And I was getting trolled mercilessly because I think people haven't watched the full context of what I was saying. I don't particularly want Nicholas Jackson. He wouldn't be the player where I go, we need to go out and get Chelsea's third choice striker. That is how we get ourselves challenging in that top 4 or whatever. But is he better than Rasmus Højlund? I'd argue he probably is. Yeah. But I don't feel like he's better enough, or there's enough of an improvement there for it to be worth it. That's my only reservation. I feel like it is a slight improvement, but not enough of one. That would be my concern. I do think Jackson is a decent player. I think some of the stick he gets is unfair. If you look at just his numbers, it's a goal involvement every other game, which we'd be buzzing about if Xerxes and Højlund and Cheeto were getting that. I know Cheeto's only a kid, but we haven't got strikers doing those kind of numbers. He's doing it. He's helped Chelsea get into the top 4, and he's helped them win a European trophy. However, there's a reason they've gone out and bought 2 more strikers. It's not because he's mint and they love him. It's because they're looking at going, if we want to get to the next level, he's probably not that guy. So I understand why people wouldn't be too enamoured of the idea of buying Nicholas Jackson. I do think the stick he gets is a little bit unfair. However, there are times when I've watched him. I think it was at I get it all mixed up, the Carabao Cup final or the FA Cup semi, one of the Wembley ones. Yeah. And he missed a few sitters. Yeah, and I was like, come on, bro.
Not for me.
So I'm not as agitated by the idea of this one, but it's not for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just think I think the last 2 seasons since he's been at Chelsea is underachieved on his XG by about 8 goals, which is a lot.
That is a lot.
That's 8 goals spread across 2 seasons. Yes, it's not, going to win you the league, but it might be the difference between 4th and 3rd.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah.
4 goals. And I'm not even going to give them all the difference between a draw and a win, but it might get you 6 points, 8 points. That's massive. If he just hits par. And I just think that I don't think his finishing is particularly great. And I think that, like you said, Chelsea are doing what they've done last season, what we want to do next season. They've pushed up, they've found consistency, and they've got into the Champions League places. They have used that season as his last season.
Yeah.
Surely, if we want to follow the same suit, we're going to buy him 1 year and then replace him next year like they did. I just don't think that he works for United particularly. And I think that if Chelsea are saying that his limit is, in and around the top 4 or top 6 spots, and then we need to replace him with 2 strikers. For me, I just think I can use that as a bit of a warning that he's not really going to be good enough long term.
Did it bother you, the penalty thing?
Was that where he wanted to take the penalty over
Palmer? Palmer who scored every single penalty.
Yeah, and then Jackson.
And then Madueke, I think, was joining on Jackson's side, and there was this sort of to and fro until Palmer just waited and then took the ball and scored.
Yeah.
Did that bother you? So I know it sounds quite trivial, but it is a sort of...
I mean,
it did get a lot of attention at the time, and people were questioning him. his mindset and is he a team player or whatever. But part of me understands a striker wanting to take penalties. I just think it was a bit stupid when Cole Palmer at the time had a 100% penalty taking record and was your penalty taker. Why randomly was
I
you
don't like
change
stuff
that?
like that. And I don't think we need that.
Daft.
Especially when you look at the mountains that get made out of molehills at United.
Yeah.
Like you see someone doing it, saying, like with Garnacho, I'm not saying that it's been molehills, but the final straw was him going, I don't know what happened. I played every minute up until the final, then I didn't start. He's fallen out with the manager. He's out of the club. So publicly and on the pitch, arguing with your teammates, trying to take a penalty.
I know. I shouldn't.
Man United, that's like
it was a year ago, whatever. And
marched to the car park and told to fuck off.
But this is it. I'm glad you said it because that's the only reason I bring it up is because everything at United is under a microscope, even more so than at Chelsea. And I just feel like if there is any questions there, then it can get blown out of proportion. So. Look, if I thought he was great, that wouldn't put me off. I've got other concerns about whether he tried to take a penalty off Cole Palmer, to be honest with you. I don't know if that improvement is enough for me.
Although what I will say about him is, I think a player of his profile is more suited to us than Benjamin Sesko is.
Okay.
Someone who can carry the ball a little bit better. I don't think he's world class at taking it forward, but I think he finds himself in good positions in the box and is a bit more mobile, not straight lines, but kind of can do the side-to-side stuff a little bit better than Sesko. I feel like he can get in good areas, but I just don't think he's the right person whatsoever. Let's move on to Ollie Watkins, who's kind of a bit of a hybrid. He's sort of the jack of all trades, I think, as a striker, because he's quick, but he's not rapid. He's not 22-year-old Marcus Rashford pace, but he's not slow by any means. He's decent on the ball, but he's not going to dribble all the way through the opposition and score a goal. But what he does have that I think over the likes of Sesko and certainly Jackson is his finishing and just his consistency of finishing. I don't think he's not a world-class finisher, but he can find the net time and time again with both feet off different angles. He can do the cute stuff, he can do the power stuff, he can do a little bit of everything. He's decent in the air. He's almost like, he's not Ruud van Nistelrooy in terms of finishing, he's not Ronaldo in terms of pace and dribbling in his youth, and he's not, Messi in terms of that kind of creative ability, but he's kind of a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
What do you make of him?
I think Ollie Watkins is a decent player.
Yeah.
I understand the sort of, again, why not everyone had been mad keen on him, because I've seen a few of the arguments put forward as this fact, can't call it an idea, but it's a fact that Marcus Rashford went to Villa last season and more or less took him out of the team for a little while, especially for those big games. You look at that quarter-final, second leg against PSG, look at some of the other games as well, City away, he was like, Marcus Rashford became their number 9 and Watkins was demoted to the bench.
Yeah.
And then people going, oh, well, does that mean you want Ollie Watkins then if Rashford keeps him out of the team? For starters, Marcus Rashford is a lot better than many people think. It's not like he was replaced by someone who's terrible at football. If Marcus Rashford turns up, then he's a very good footballer. Also, Watkins, although he was obviously annoyed at that, he didn't spit his dummy out. And when Rashford got injured, he went back into that team and he carried on scoring goals for them. And his record in the Premier League is very good over the last few years. I get he's 28, 29, I think. He will be 29 by the time he signs if we get him. So there isn't much of a sell-on value there. In fact, there's none. But can he come in and do a job for us? Yes, I think he can. I think he's a player that could quite realistically get 16, 17 Premier League goals next season. If he did that, we'd be buzzing. Yeah, especially if you can get, I don't know, 30 Premier League goals between Mbeumo and Cunha, which isn't beyond the realms of possibility. Then all of a sudden you've got a strike or an attacking 3 that are getting you close to 50 goals. I think that works. And I think with Watkins, there's a part of me that feels like we're almost lucky he's in the conversation. I know people go, Jay, what the hell are you talking about? United are lucky we can get Ollie Watkins. Well, a player that's consistently scoring loads of goals in the Premier League, that is available and that is willing to come and the club are willing to sell him, I'd be buzzing if we got him, because I feel like, again, as a 3, that would work.
Yeah.
And also, the one thing I will say about Watkins is I don't think he's got just half a season left in him. He's got at least 2 seasons left in him. By the time those 2 seasons are up, Manchester United could hopefully be in the Champions League and have more money to spend on someone, or have earned enough money to spend on someone, or Chido might have kicked on by the time he's 19, 20, where you're going, he's ready now to start for Manchester United. He's ready to lead the line for Manchester United. And Watkins can almost take a step back and be the understudy or the reserve to Chido. So for me, this potential deal makes a lot of sense. I just think it does, and I'm not too worried about the fact that he's 29, or the fact that he was kept out of the team for a little while off Marcus Rashford. I think it's like this sounds like an insult, and I don't mean it to be, but it's like a wish version of when we bought Van Persie from Arsenal. It's like that guy that scored.
I mean, that is hugely insulting. I think whether you say I don't mean it to be or not, I think that's
all right.
that's hugely
Let me
insulting.
say, it's like the Asda Smart Price version.
Exactly.
That's a little bit better than Wish. I don't know what Wish is. Sorry, I just heard the kids saying it. Sorry,
Just
I didn't
knock
mean
off.
to insult Ollie Watkins, because I've actually tried to stick up for him, then just
No,
did the
yeah,
complete
you want us to
opposite.
sign him.
Yeah, it's like a slightly worse version of when we bought Van Persie from Arsenal. Van Persie from Arsenal, scoring loads of goals. He came to United at the age of 29 and won us a title. Ollie Watkins, he's scoring a decent amount of goals at Aston Villa, could come to Manchester United and hopefully get us into the Champions League spots.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get at, and forgive me for being so ham-fisted in my attempts at it.
No, I think it's fair enough. I think as well, again, it's about the fee. Because if it's a 60 to 70 million like we spent on the 29-year-old
That's ridiculous. No, I'm not having that one.
It has to be a no. But I think if it's, again, anywhere up to 55 million, I think if it starts with a 6, it starts feeling silly. I think this matters. You always make this point, and I agree with you completely, about the fee has so many permutations on a player's career at United. It does. The narrative amongst the fans, I can't believe we spent 70 million on him. You can feel that in the stadium at times. The press, every time a player underperforms, and he's cost a lot of money, his price tag is included in the article. Yeah. £80 million defender Harry Maguire as a shocker. They don't do it when he's scoring goals or, having a stormer. It's when he has a bad game or he does something wrong, they'll put the price tag in. Also, just the expectation levels. Well, he cost this, he's got to be able to do that. It sort of alters the narrative around a player. I think 50 million. Yeah.
I think 50 million should be.
I think if you can get him under that, I
50
think if
million.
You get it in the let's say 40 plus 5.
Yeah, because
I'd be really.
Who was it? He went about 10 years ago. 50 was it Gylfi Sigurdsson or something?
Yeah.
And less said about him, the better. But that's the point. Is 50 million was happening years ago for players that weren't even all that.
Yeah.
So if you get a player like Ollie Watkins, 50 million, despite his age, I don't think too many people lose their minds over that, and that can help him a little bit.
Yeah.
So I just feel that once you start getting past that, it alters the narrative.
And
it alters
surely,
all
if
those
you're
other things.
Man United negotiating, you can point to the fact that Aston Villa were willing to let him go to Arsenal in January.
Yeah.
And you can point to the fact, like you said, I know it was for different reasons and matchups and stuff, but Watkins was kept out of the team to a certain extent by Rashford.
Yeah.
And then also you can point to the fact that he is 29. There's no sell-on value here. If we keep him for 2 years, basically he's worth a third of what he's worth now. Even if he plays well in that time, you're not getting more than 20 million quid for him as a 31-year-old. And that you'd be lucky to get that. Basically, we're saying we are taking him for the last few years of his top flight career, any more than 45 million, and it's literally not worth it to us. You can have him and let his contract run out. And maybe Villa will say, actually, for us, it's worth it.
Yeah.
But if you ever want to get any money for him, now's the summer. I would go in around that 40 to 45 mark if I'm United.
Humour me, because this won't happen, but let's just pretend.
I'll humour you.
If Villa said, we'll give you 50 million for Alejandro Garnacho, but you give it us back for Ollie Watkins, would you do that deal?
Ooh,
I know that is technically just a player swap.
But you wouldn't put it down as that.
No.
Because you could list the 50 million.
Laurie was explaining this the other week when he on Inside United. It's like even if that clubs wanted to exchange players, they're more likely to one sells one player and the other one sells the other.
Like we did with Mkhitaryan and Sanchez. Technically both with 30 million.
Yeah. Would you do that deal?
That's a good one, that. I think I might,
Yeah.
Because I think United can put that 50 million sale down as profit right now, and we can spread the purchase out over the next few years. And I think 50 million is a lot for Watkins, but I would probably go for that. Would you?
Probably.
Yeah.
I do think we should be getting more than 50 million for Garnacho, to be honest with you. But the longer it drags on, the less enthused I am with that idea. Also, as well, it's just getting a bit pantomime in it. Marcus has gone, which I think is a massive positive, because just the whole sort of dramas around the club, and he's coming into training when the manager's left and all this other nonsense. We've still got Sancho, we've still got Andrew, we've still got Garnacho. I think we need to, and Malacio, though, feel a bit harsh on that lad, sort of throwing him in with the rest of the group. But yeah, I feel like if we can get Garnacho to Villa Park and we get Ollie Watkins. It's not that bad a deal. And again, I've got to go back to it. I think you start this season, next season, with 3 players who all scored 15 goals or more in the Premier League last season. Not bad. Excuse me. Do you still do that when you sneeze?
No.
Remember when Paul Pogba did that in COVID? I still do it,
It
mate.
taught the kids how to sneeze.
And everyone was losing their
properly.
minds, weren't they? What was this dabbing thing? But I was like, that's not a bad.
And you're still doing it
I
now.
was like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think if you brought in another player who scored 15 plus goals last season, what are you moaning for?
Yeah.
What did you said we didn't score enough goals in the Premier League? We brought in 3 players who scored 15 plus.
Can you dab again to finish the video? Unbelievable. Right, that's going to be all from us. Let us know your thoughts. Who should we get up front? And also, obviously, as any news breaks, as any links are firmed up and reported on, we will have them here on Stretford Paddock, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Thank you, Jay, as always.
Thanks, Joe.
See you in a bit.